Darrin, he did it. We've been waiting a while. Jey Uso fans have been waiting a long time for the moment tonight. It was fun to see. And I one of the little things that I really liked about this is the crowd chanting "Ref, you suck," which, by the way, in sports can be overdone. But they weren't chanting "This is awesome." They were wrapped up in wanting Jey to win. They weren't wrapped up in trying to evaluate how many stars should I give this and how many stars is a friend next to me going to give it, or wow, this is exciting. They were invested in Jey Uso winning a championship. That's why they chanted "Ref, you suck." It's it's also a kind of a trendy thing that has now been picked up by WWE fans, but I'm all for fans indicating we care who wins. The ref stopped short of 3. And man, were they ready to explode for that. And I thought, you know what? You watch that, and maybe WWE's making a mistake by not letting Jey win, because that was sort of the moment that they took away from the fans. And 2, 3, 4, whatever, a few minutes later, Jey hits the same move and gets a clean 3 count. I love it. Braun Breaker's going to be fine, right? He's going to be just fine. He's the cocky, arrogant heel who, did push-ups in the middle of the match, said I'm going to be champ for a very long time. I loved his line too. I'm going to be champ for so long that, Jey, when I beat you, you're going to have time to work your way back up the rankings and get a rematch with me. He's got whoever's coming up with his stuff, and I know Paul Heyman is working with a lot of people behind the scenes and loves Braun Breaker, but it could be, it could be Breaker's own stuff. It could be other talented writers, whoever it is. That was a great line. I think this is really cool. I think people are going to like Jey getting this moment, both in a just absorbed in the moment sense and also in a meta sense. Hey, give this guy a title. Sean Radican wrote a Radican's take on PWTorch.com this weekend, calling for this. Darrin, tell me what you thought.
Yeah, it was one of those matches I was not sure who was going to win. I was thinking maybe Braun Breaker shouldn't be losing this soon since capturing the title, but then it's okay to have title changes every couple of months for certain titles like that. There's no harm in that, and I don't think Braun is going to really lose anything from losing to such a popular wrestler. The moment was just, it did seem really special. The thing that caught me was the fan reaction to the big false finish, and when they cut to the audience and people were just so genuinely invested, and just the look of shock and almost hurt that he didn't get the title, and maybe we're not going to see it. After that I was almost convinced someone was going to run down and interfere or something, which would have just been brutal. And they went ahead and went with the title change, and it was time, and it's a good way to capitalize on his popularity, and just because the fans are super behind him, and I think this will only elevate him even more to have him defending the belt.
WWE is booking against their own formula in a really smart way. They know what their formula is. There's a WWE style to a lot of things, including booking of matches. And they're aware that fans are consciously, subconsciously aware and reacting to things. And I think they know when a babyface gets like this close call hope spot, that was your moment. And now is when the inevitable happens and the heel wins and they're going to cheat or do something. And they played against that. They did the same spot twice, basically. One time it didn't work, and the next time it did. You want to be self-aware. There comes a time you want to change things up it's why every champion who kind of dominates an era is very different than the previous champion, because fans don't want a rerun of what they saw. Promoters tend to want a rerun of what they saw. That's why Lex Luger became the All-American Lex Luger, who Vince McMahon 30 years ago this week. Check out PWTorch.com. My Raw report from 30 years ago this week is up with what Vince McMahon said about Lex Luger, which is every American loves him, including Native Americans. They all love Lex Luger. He wanted Lex to be the next Hulk Hogan. One, because he was used to it. He wanted to just plug and play someone else in who could play the role. He also wanted to prove it was him, not Hulk, I believe, who was responsible for the rise of the WWF. And promoters do this a lot. They want to replace themselves. They want to replace whatever worked. Sometimes themselves, like Vern Gagne would love to have replaced himself with Brad Rheingans, the Olympic great, who didn't get to go to the Olympics in 1980 because of the boycott. But, it ended up Hulk Hogan took off. That was the next big thing. Rick Martel was a little closer to Vern. I'm doing AWA history here. Let's get back. My point is that there's a history that goes back 40 plus years on this, and So I love that they are self-aware that what they've been doing is something they can play off of effectively for drama. And I thought they did that on this match. And then people just want to see Jay be champion. And we'll get into this in segment block B, not block A, but I'm curious how if we're seeing seeds planted for Xavier, who wants to be a singles champion. And because Joe Tessitore, who did great tonight, he's already a very good announcer. And we'll talk more about him too. But he said, James wanted a singles title all this time. So you got these two wrestlers at the same time wanting singles titles. It's completely separate. They're not hinting that they're going to be like crossing paths, but they made a really big deal out of that in this in Jay's match too. So yeah, a lot to like. Darrin, respond to any of that.
Yeah, and they kept hitting that it was 14 years and they recited, I guess, the 6 title shots or whatever the stat was. They really did a good job of setting it up and what this would mean for him to win it. And then that he actually came through just really added to it. And they would let the celebration soak in a little bit. I understand the time constraints and everything. If there was one thing I would have to take away from it is that they abruptly cut from the celebration. And this is something fans have been waiting for so long. And I wish that we could have seen more of that. And unfortunately, due to network restrictions, we had to see the little game show. like people couldn't wait for that. Yeah. So that was unfortunate.
It might be strategic too, because I've looked at minute by minute numbers for wrestling shows for years. I can kind of get them when I ask for them. I don't push it too much, but I look at those minute by minutes, and as soon as a pinfall happens, they lose viewers. Like even with celebrations going on, I'm with you. Serve the majority who want to see the celebration. Let's bask in it. Don't cut away. But USA Network is going to have some time on their hands on Monday nights starting in January, and they want the most people possible, super jacked and excited, and then boom. We're going to go to our show that we hope you'll get addicted to and watch, and not just be one of those fans who watches Raw and then doesn't watch anything else on this network. So, but it might have been a timing issue too. I might be prescribing more strategy than there really was. It could have just been an issue of match went a little bit longer than we wanted. But the chat room is loving this too. Cy T says some of this is genuinely unpredictable, which is my favorite part of the new era. Darrell Freeman said this was a good moment for Jay. He needs this now. Time to add that serious feel to him. They have so much they can market with him, like all the different entrances. Al Archer says the story of a rookie streaming up to the top, seeming unstoppable, only to trip up, is a very real story, and I love it. Sadler version 3 says, I thought for sure someone from Judgment Day would interfere. So happy that didn't happen. Linda Butler with me on this one. I think Linda said it before I did. Joe Tess's excitement level helped the main event too. And this shouldn't be underrated. Al Archer says, I love the build up to the main event all show. It got me into wanting to see it and even believing Jay could win, and he did. This goes to my argument that I've made for decades, which is building up a main event isn't just about convincing people who might tune out to stay tuned in. It's to make the people who, when the bell rings or ring entrances happen and the match happens, be talked into believing this is a big deal. And part of it is you got to have a match that fans will buy as a big deal, but they're less likely to buy as a big deal if the promotion doesn't seem to care or doesn't treat it as a big deal. You don't want to have the same tone to every main event, because then it just sounds like you're a promoter just turning a key and doing, hype 101. You should always promote your main event, but some are more special than others. And when you know that, when you sense it as a booker or a promoter, do what they did tonight, the build to this was really good too. So Darrin, anything else you want to add now that I read some reader comments there?
Not necessarily, but they did do a good job throughout the show. They gave it a little added push than they have more than some other main events, and you could tell this was a little bit different. I guess they knew what was in store, obviously, but yeah, the build throughout the show was very well done, and that helped to make the moment even more special.
Yes. Linda says, I'm the fan that watches Raw and nothing else on USA these days. Well, I mean, it's going to happen.
Not alone.
SmackDown is, SmackDown, I did put a ratings report up on PWTorch.com on SmackDown's numbers Friday on week 2 on USA Network without a Cody solo cage match and season premiere hype. And viewership was under 1.5 million on average. And, Raw's outdrawing them by a pretty big margin in the first hour, and that average is going to go up next week when they go back to 2 hours. That hasn't changed, has it? They're not going to take that from us, are they? Is that 2 weeks away? Next week's the 30th. So I guess it's the first episode of October. So it's the 7th. So we have a 3-hour show next week. But when Raw's 2 hours, that third hour, which is almost always lower, will not pull down the average anymore. So Raw's going to be the top viewed show for WWE for a few months. And then, who knows with the Netflix, how that data gets compiled. Nobody knows what to expect there. They did it. They did a good job. I was going to say something else that I can't remember. What it was, Darrin? Anything else you want to add? And then we'll go to introductions.
No, I'm good.
Cool. All right. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Monday, September 23rd, 2024. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch weekly newsletter and the website PWTorch.com, and the host of various podcasts, including the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Podcast. That's not this. This is the post show. The podcast is our blue logo show. And tomorrow, Jason Powell from ProWrestling.net joins me. Always a great time talking with Jason. He is the original flagship co-host with me. Used to be on every week, and more than 10 years ago, we went to an every 3-week format at Jason's request. He had other stuff he had to do, but it's allowed us to have a mix of co-hosts. So I want to encourage you, if you want to be part of tomorrow's show, send an email anytime before tomorrow afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. You can make go on a rant, suggest a topic, ask us a question, and Jason and I might get to it. No guarantees. We don't always have time to get to all the emails, or sometimes we just hit a topic you've already covered and then it ends up being redundant, but we definitely like to include emails. So I don't mean to discourage you, but I just want to give fair warning. Work that goes in emails might not necessarily get read on the air. But we get to most of them, and we really appreciate it. And sometimes we get a topic we would not have talked about. And so please understand your emails are valued. wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. If you're not subscribing to the show, especially if you're discovering us on YouTube and aren't a podcast subscriber, you can only get our flagship show, our main weekly show covering a broad array of topics, in podcast format. So it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcast apps. Search Wade Keller. Subscribe to the Blue Logo Show to get the podcast, which, by the way, includes interviews, flashbacks, all kinds of good stuff, in addition to the flagship pay-per-view previews. And then while you're there, you'll see the red logo pop up for this show. Subscribe to that also for a variety of reasons. One, there's just content there that you won't find here on YouTube, including flashback episodes. And also, you might just rather listen in podcast format sometimes. So it'll be right there with you. The other face you see on YouTube, the other voice you hear wherever you're consuming this show, is Darrin Lilly of PWTorch.com. He is the TNA Impact TV reporter and pay-per-view reporter. And then he also is host of the PWT Impact Pod, a weekly VIP exclusive podcast dedicated to TNA. Darrin, you don't know this yet, but drum roll, your last 2 week shows are going to be on the PW Torch Daily Cast tonight as a free sample for everybody. So the conversations you and John Laszlo had after Victory Road, and then also coming out of Victory Road and going into Bound for Glory hype, that's all going to be a double header tonight, a free sample for everybody on the PW Torch Daily Cast lineup. It's going to be a matter of weeks before we get everything arranged in terms of some ideas we have for what we're going to do with the Daily Cast, with some shuffling of some hosts and shows. And so today was a chance, because we did a best of show already this weekend, to looking back at NXT's debut 5 years ago, by the way. That was cool. Check that out on the Daily Cast. We also did a Wade Keller show on that too, over the weekend, a flashback. But check out the PW Torch Daily Cast, and you can hear Darrin and John Laszlo talk Impact. We don't do a ton of Impact, TNA Impact talk here on the Wade Keller shows. We get to it on the flagship sometimes, especially with Jason Powell and Greg Parks. And so, but check it out. And if you're a TNA fan, it might be something you want to, might nudge you into being a VIP member, because I know there's a lot less TNA conversation out there, Darrin, than there is AEW and WWE these days. So it's great that you guys have that category covered so well.
Thanks. Thanks for having me today.
Yes. Anything you want to add about TNA? in your show?
They're on the road to their biggest show of the year, Bound for Glory. So they're starting that slow build. I think it's about 5 or 6 weeks out. So this is usually the time where they do that. It's usually a good build, and it's very slow, and you start seeing some formulations of what matches are going to take shape. So it's a good time to tune into TNA as they head to their biggest show of the year. They've got some momentum with the relationship with NXT and WWE. So attendance wise, and I'm not sure about TV ratings, but they're getting a little bit of buzz for that with the crossover stuff. So it's a good time to tune in to TNA.
Excellent. So as has been on the screen, just search PWTorch in your podcast app. And then that'll bring up the PWTorch Daily Cast logo. We have basically three free podcast feeds that are updated just about every day. The Wade Keller shows, the blue logo, red logo, and then the PWTorch Daily Cast with different show, different theme every day of the week. All free. Subscribe. All of those can be made commercial free, where the commercial breaks just jump right. We just jump right past commercial breaks, skip the in-house ads and the digital inserted ads, and it's a streamlined listening experience that is available through a Patreon supporters membership or a regular VIP membership. Full details on that at pwtorch.com/govip. Not only are there ad-free shows as a perk when you become a VIP member, but a lot of VIP exclusive shows throughout the week also. So you can get a 7-day free trial at Patreon at patreon.com/pwtorchvip. Or you can go to pwtorch.com/govip for full details on all VIP benefits and all the ways to subscribe. It is compatible with Spotify through Patreon. You can actually search PWTorch in Spotify to subscribe through Patreon and get all our VIP shows there, the exclusives and the ad-free versions on Spotify, or through Apple Podcasts, or through credit card, debit card, PayPal. 35 plus years of archives. It's cool stuff. Check it out if you haven't yet. All right, so let's get back to our conversation on Raw tonight. So much more to get into. I want to quickly, because I don't want to forget to do this, compliment Joe Tessitore. He is in a groove already. The opening segments of the first 2 weeks, I was hard on him. I thought it was too much, I am Howard Cosell, like it was just like he was trying to be too gimmicky, talking too slowly, and it was patronizing. The tone wasn't right. But every time I criticized him, I said, it's not easy out of the gate to get the tone right. And he wants to put his personal stamp on things. He's got a ton of experience. He's got an established personality as an announcer, but he wasn't hitting it right at the beginning. It was awkward and kind of, I don't know, cringy at times or patronizing. And then he got better each episode as it went on, even if he's reading from notes, which, he did. I don't notice he did that this week. And now I think we're 4 weeks in. And I mean, he had a coming out moment on the main event like 2 weeks ago. And then last week he was good, I think, start to finish. And tonight he was, again, really good start to finish. I think he's going to be a really good fit for WWE's product. Darrin, I just thought he called the main event. Like, I don't like to say the word great to not mean it, but I mean, I think he did a great job calling the main event tonight and was good throughout the show. Am I higher on him than you so far?
No, I can't disagree with that. I thought he did very well. Sure, coming right. I mean, he's not gonna get it exactly right coming the first couple of weeks. And it seems to me that maybe he listened back or took some advice and corrected the things that needed to be updated. And he took that advice to heart, or just kind of looked back at the tapes and saw, I need to cut whatever this out or need to do this better. And it's much more polished. I sensed some genuine excitement. You could see him in the background, like kind of jumping up, and it wasn't real gimmicky when he was getting excited during the main event. I thought it was genuine emotion. That's tough to fake, and I thought he did very well from that aspect. Also, they cut out some of the silliness. I know, like, I forgot what it was last week that I really didn't like. It might have been like the Uso dance or something like that. But he did something related to that, and I was like, they need to kind of cut that stuff out. And I did not remember seeing anything like that this week where he was getting into character or anything. So they kind of phased that stuff out. But yes, I was very pleased with it, and I thought he added to the main event. Can't hear you.
I didn't like Joe holding up the SoCal Yeet sign and being enthusiastic. I think they need to leave the play-by. Yeah, they need to make the play-by-play announcers frankly dignified, and that felt
above
undignified.
that.
It was cringy. And Michael Cole was flipping out on SmackDown last Friday over something, and I just Cole likes
Chelsea
to do that
Green,
stuff.
I think.
Yeah. Like, just if you're an announcer, like, don't be a mark for wanting to be a character. It's undignified. It's unbecoming. I mean, your job is to be credible and straightforward. No, like as Rock would say, know your role. I mean, it's like you can be a goof outside of the ring, and have a fun personality. You can do home movies. You can have a YouTube channel and wear a mask and get it out of your system. I don't care, but don't be a fanboy on the air. And, it's one thing when Pat McAfee was doing it, for Shinsuke or whatever. And it's like a color commentator, they're characters, but the play-by-play guy, they represent the brand more than, like, in a way more than even Paul Levesque does. I mean, Paul does in sort of a meta, every once in a while he appears and he's at the press conference type stuff. But week to week, it's the face and voice of the company, calling all the matches as the fans are emotionally invested. Have credibility, have dignity. Like, don't. And I mean, Joe's did it probably because he was told to do it. This isn't ripping on Joe, other than, he's probably not going to say no to his boss after 4 weeks. I'm just really against that. I just, there's so many personalities and characters on wrestling. You need someone just stable and normal and grounded, who takes their job seriously. One thing about Joe that I really like is how genuinely outraged he feels when heels cheat. Like, and he's like actually walking up to a line where it's almost too much, but it's not too much. It's just he's right on the edge. He's like Mick Harsh, long time good friend of mine. Used to write columns for PWTorch newsletter in the late 80s. He did ring announcing for the AWA on ESPN, but most of his work in the totality of his life has been doing indie match play-by-play. And I always use him as the example of a old school, but what I think should be a timeless, consistent approach announcers take, which is they are invested in the best wrestler winning, following the rules. Because if you don't have that voice, that kind of, what's, the old term being square, like you need to follow the rules, but you need someone to do that. Otherwise, it's no fun when someone breaks them. You got to have somebody who's a stickler for it. And you want to have a sense of, I mean, the fans are chanting ref, you suck, because they want Jay to win. And they're booing when heels cheat. That's what you want. But if the voice of the company, the play-by-play guy, isn't an advocate for actually following the rules, you don't have the standard from which everything else deviates. There's just no standard to deviate from. So the deviation is less fun. It's less effective. Fun isn't even probably the word. So Tessitore, when there was a foot on the rope, was it Dragunov? Or who's Gunther's guy? I have Dragunov in my head now. Who wrestled Sammy in the opener?
Kaiser,
thank you. Yeah. They're just, their names are sadly interchangeable in my head sometimes. Kaiser had his foot on the ropes, and Tessitore is like, what is he doing? That is, it's like he's never seen cheating before. It was, I liked it. Same thing with Breaker when Breaker did something. So anyway,
I kind of compared it to David Crockett a little bit, how he would get outraged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
Along those lines.
Yes. And David was a color guy who was also obnoxiously too much, but I know the spirit of what you mean, because boy, did David seem like no one's, quote, smartened him up to the business. Like he felt like it was real. And especially when it came to Dusty. Oh man.
Yeah. It was good sometimes.
It was good sometimes. It was fun. Yeah.
But yes, it was too much at others.
There are things that don't age well. And then there are people who are not liked in their time, but people look back and adore them. And, people who are on David Crockett now just say he's really, really sweet, really fun. I think Gorilla Monsoon aged better than the people like who are watching a show like this 30 years ago didn't like Gorilla Monsoon. I mean, they thought he was terrible. I mean, just like he was I don't even want to say what people said about him. But the kids who grew up watching him look back on him fondly. Greg Parks, columnist for the Torch, doesn't understand any criticism of Gorilla, but he was a little kid when Gorilla was announcing, and that's the face and voice. For me, that was Mean Gene Okerlund, the AWA version, not the cartoonized caricature in WWF. The actual really good version of Gene was in the AWA. And all the older people who were fans who I got to know didn't like Okerlund. They wanted Marty O'Neill. He was the standard bearer for that. And Gene was the carnival barking huckster. And I was like, no, he's my guy. I love him. So David Crockett aged well is full circle point. Okay. compliment in the chat room, and then we'll get to video calls. 27 Newsmen said, I thought Testator's call of the Kaiser Zane match was good, pointing out that Ludwig shouldn't be yelling at the ref after he cheated was spot on. What you want from an announcer or play-by-play guy is that sort of innocent lens of watching things happen that a lot of us have seen happen for years or decades, but react to it through fresh eyes. Because everything you saw for the first time, someone 25 years older than you has seen 100,000 times. And it's not new to them. But the thing that makes it, that thing that pulls people into pro wrestling and what makes people love it when they're kids is that when it happens for them for the first time, it's played up like it's the first time by the company. You know, the first cage match, I didn't know cage match has been going on for all these years. I thought cage match, first time I saw it, I was like, I mean, obviously now you have access to a lot of history that I didn't have, as a fan pre-internet. But you want the announcers to act like the cheating is something that we haven't just baked into the system. Everybody does it. Who cares? What are we going to do about it? You want to be outraged by it. Just like, frankly, when a politician lies, it should be a big deal. Not, well, he lies all the time, so we're not going to talk about it. But we're going to hold this other politician to a higher standard because he or she doesn't lie all the time. Like, no, lying should be, you should be held accountable for it. Cheating, you should be held accountable for it. So, all right. Someone else had a comment on Tess. Sadler version 3 says, I like when Tess pointed out that Woods' attack on Gable was a bad idea and he lost his focus on the task at hand. A lot of play-by-play commentators would have just rooted for him attacking the heel. Absolutely. That's another good moment in the match. What babyface got distracted? Oh, Jey Uso, and they didn't call it, which might have been smart, but Jey played to the crowd late in the match before diving through the ropes, and that's when Braun hit him with a forearm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only real critique I have of the match layout is that I just don't think baby faces should play to when they play to the crowd, that delay shouldn't allow the heel to recover. You should always hit the move after you play to the crowd. Otherwise, fans are going to not enjoy you playing to them because they're going to learn it's undisciplined and unfocused, and it might backfire, which it did in this case. Saiti says they're putting together a great team on Raw, not just Tess, but Wade Barrett and absolutely Samantha Irvin. Wade Barrett, Joe is the new shiny toy, but Wade's been really good. And I actually think he stepped up because he's had to sort of carry Joe more, like he's the senior guy. And I think it was smart to put them together. And I think Wade's been really good with Joe and really good in general. Finding that balance of siding with the heels, but not to like that kind of pro wrestling cartoonish degree.
Yep.
Yeah. And Gene Albert 13 says he calls boxing and college football the exact same way. Elaborate on that too. Like, you mean like he hates cheating in boxing and college football? Elaborate, or you just mean the voice? The voice. And then L. Archer says, speaking of Gorilla, WWE just released matches of Dump Matsumoto go along with the Netflix show. Gorilla's on color, and he goes full Jim Ross in AEW, yelling about the ref and the tag rules. Love it. Cool. Okay. So I haven't even checked the inbox yet, but if you want to email us, wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. We will try to get to emails as the show progresses, but we will keep an eye on the chat room in the meantime and go to video calls. If you are a PWTorch VIP member or a Patreon supporter, if you go to my TV report at PWTorchVIP.com, the link to be a video caller is there. It's just a VIP exclusive feature. Also, if you're a Patreon supporter, I have, I hope I posted. Did I hit the, yeah, I posted the link. Last week I got to the final step and didn't hit post. I posted the video caller link there too. So you can be a video caller if you want. You can turn your camera off if you just want to be audio, like our old days on Blog Talk Radio, taking phone calls. That is absolutely fine too. Speaking of which, we got Dan up first, and then we've got Rude Dog on deck. Dan, welcome. You're on the show live. Thanks for calling. What's on your mind about Raw?
I really enjoyed Raw tonight. More specifically, the Xavier Woods,
Yes.
everything in the ring and backstage, how he's like going unhinged and kind of similar to what Drew McIntyre was doing earlier in the year. So I'm really hopeful that they actually do split up the New Day because it's been stale for too long. What do you guys think?
I wrote in my report at PWTorch PWTorchVIP.com. I hope everybody's reading along while watching Raw and getting off social media. Who cares what randos say? You can see what I'm saying about Raw during the show, or at least have a tab open on your phone or whatever. I said that New Day, I seem to be having actual genuine artistic fun instead of please, someone stop making us do this every week, hooting like owls. And like, I mean, I know they're playing up the Bootios and stuff, and but I just think Xavier's actually really good in this role. I think Kofi is good playing a friend trying to keep another friend who's having a meltdown kind of on track. This is absolutely the most interested I've been in New Day. I know the Odyssey Jones situation with him being pulled from everything affected this, but it took a little while to kind of regroup, but they have. And having Xavier like mouth off to Ray is a good way to turn heel. I mean, people love Ray, and Ray was good standing up to him. Yeah, I think Kofi and Xavier have been really good in their roles, and I'm intrigued with how they eventually pull this off. And I'm hoping they don't, for the 10th anniversary, kind of go full, just, Big E shows up and they all become friends and Xavier apologizes. But I think they've invested too much in this to not actually have Xavier have a heel run as a singles wrestler. And they might be setting up Xavier to challenge Jey Uso down the line too, because, Jey just won his first singles title and Xavier's going to be bitter about that as a longtime tag wrestler. Jey will say something innocuous and Xavier will blow it out of proportion. Like, why, how, Jey will be celebrating next week his first singles title win. And yes, I'm finally a singles champion. The camera, off to the left will pan over and there'll be Xavier like throwing things like, why is he rubbing that in my face? I was standing here. They could do all kinds of fun things with this. Darrin, what do you think of what's going on with New Day?
I really do like it. I mean, I'm impressed because often we would reference, how can they get the New Day on track? Is it just it for them, or can they do anything to refresh them? And I had no idea how they could get them back on track. And they're one of the highlights of the show every week, seeing how this story is progressing. But last week, it was almost like, is Kofi the one that's going to be turning? Because it was
I know.
Yes, because Xavier was in the right.
Super sensitive, yeah.
Yes, but this week they kind of put. I say Xavier was a little more heelish, so I believe they are going in that direction. Maybe not an entire split, but Xavier might explore some other options, perhaps, and eventually they do get back together. I could see that happening, but I'm just really the act fresh again and intriguing, and I really want to know what's happening in, where the guy came in from off screen with the stack of pancakes and he got waved off. I thought that was genuinely funny. I mean, it was the last time you really laughed at like a New Day segment with all the ridiculousness. So they're doing a great job on that.
Yeah, it's fun. Dan, back to you.
Yeah. While you guys were talking, I just realized I was like, Big E hasn't been on like TV like Raw or SmackDown. I was like, but he's on the pre-shows. I was like,
yeah.
he can just, why can't he come out with the group too? Like, he doesn't have to be wrestling all the time, but it just seems kind of odd. And it seems like they're just maybe trying to pivot to like Xavier going heel and then maybe coming back later as a group, like every other faction, DX, NWO, whatever.
So I first of all, I don't think they want Big E I don't think Big E wants to fly, and I don't think they need to fly Big E out to every like Raw just to come to ringside. Also, when you can't wrestle and you've been a wrestler and then you're just sort of a mascot more than even a manager, that can sort of be hard on you. But most of all, I just think it's smart to save it up for a big moment. Like if he came out every week, he'd have to be reacting to all this as it's going on. And I think what's happening is it's building up. Like, what does Big E think? How's he going to react? At some point, obviously for the 10th anniversary, if not sooner, they're all going to be together and Big E's going to say, hey, Xavier, what's going on with you? I've been watching you and I'm texting you and you change the subject. You don't want to talk about it. Or you say it's all good. And we know when people say it's all good, it's not actually all good. That's why they say it's all good. They don't want to talk about it. They just want to move on. Right. And so, yeah, I think they're building up to a Big E moment. Darrin, what do you think?
Yeah, two of the points I was going to make, you kind of brought up. I recall Bryan Danielson mentioning that it's kind of tough when you're on the shelf to kind of be around it. When he did the stint as the general manager, he said that was kind of difficult. And so I could see that with Big E as well. I could see why he would be in the same mindset. And also the point about if he's there every week, I think it'll make more of an impact if he gets involved in the storyline if he's not there week to week. And that's probably a big reason for it as well.
Yeah,
you know,
Dan,
something big is going to go down when he does show up.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Dan, anything else you want to bring up?
Well, that's true, because like I was watching him on the pre-shows, and like he can't turn his neck unless he turns his whole body. So maybe it's just like an everyday thing that you probably can't be ringside and try to prevent like cheating going on or whatnot. I don't know.
I have days like that. Yeah, I mean, no, seriously, physically speaking, I mean, it might not be helpful for him as he recovers to be on a plane all the time and being involved with chaos at ringside.
True. Shoot, I forgot what I was going to bring up now, and I totally forgot.
No pressure. We'll just wait, and there'll be awkward silence, and you'll feel guilty, and you won't remember anything, and the show will crawl to a halt, and our viewership will drop, and the chat room will get impatient with us, and you'll be a number one heel then. Did that help?
Hey, man, heels being fun. Jey Uso, I was actually surprised he got the title tonight, but I was thinking maybe they did this switch because, quite honestly, he earned it, and at the same time, the NFL was showing 2 games at once. A lot of viewers are not going to be on WWE if that's the case.
Were they less? I'm not like I've followed the NFL, but was this? It seemed like these weren't big games, like the biggest games tonight, right? Just looking at what was up. So maybe so maybe even though it's a doubleheader, which hurts in some ways, it might actually be a little bit better because maybe some people who would normally be. What was the second game? Cincinnati and
Washington.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, yeah. That's why I thought it wasn't marquee. I don't even know how they're doing this year, but I mean, come on, it's the Commanders. And so yeah, maybe they get better viewership from it by featuring a big intercontinental title match that they built up well throughout the show and built up well in recent weeks. Maybe they'll actually do okay viewership wise relative to the NFL, even though it was 2 instead of 1. Darrin, any thoughts on that?
Not necessarily. I think the first game was pretty much out of hand. The one that started earlier. So yeah, but I think it will still have some kind of effect. But this, if people were thinking Jey might take the title, I think it might help. It will be interesting to see how the ratings do play out. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah. Dan, anything else for us?
Yeah, one last topic, and that's it. The opening segment with Dom and what's her name? I can't remember.
Liv Morgan.
Liv Morgan, yes.
Ilya Dragunov. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I really Dragunov. that was pretty. I really like the lowrider, how he came in, like ode to Eddie Guerrero, and then Rhea coming out, and they're saying he's going to be in a shark tank or a shark cage above the ring. I was like that matters because like you have Finn Balor, JD, and Carlito still there to come in and interrupt the match. I was like, that's silly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this didn't solve every problem, but it solved one problem with high entertainment value for fans. And so, I mean, it's been done before. And it's when someone is so, it's usually the cage is usually saved for the obnoxious manager who people just can't wait to see. Jim Cornette being scared of heights. Bobby Heenan. Did Bobby Heenan ever go up in a cage? I imagine he did. But
the last one I remember was Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens.
Oh yeah. So I mean, people are gonna watch just to see Dom throw a fit. Being thrown into a cage, and having to be above the ring. And I mean, I also love the line. It was just, they didn't draw a ton of attention because like, I can't be behind bars again. There's the ex-felon who, hardened in prison now is going to be behind bars again. He's going to have, I mean, they're not that PTSD is something to make fun of, but there'll be, an element of that they play into, that there's scar tissue there from, I'll put it that way, from the last time he's behind bars. So, I mean, there's a lot for them to play into. It's fun. Of course, your point, Dan, is right. But I guess the argument is Dom has been the primary interferer, and he's closest to Liv and has the biggest grudge against Rhea. So you got to start somewhere, and they don't have time to build extra shark cages, so they can only have one guy in them. I don't know. Darrin, anything you want to add to the Dom shark cage?
No, but it'll bring some good entertainment value, and that's people will really be looking forward to that one. So yeah, it was a good touch.
Linda Butler added, Dom protesting Adam Pearce. It wasn't me, it was Tom. About all his women's match run-ins made me LOL. I was not expecting an R-Truth callback. So that is fun.
What happened with R-Truth? He hasn't been on TV for a while.
I think they understood that 4 out of the last 5 attempts at comedy were awful, and they had run out of steam writing for him, and it was time to take him off TV and bring him back when people will pop for him instead of groaning when they see him, because he used to be funny and now he's not. I mean, honestly,
so
he's
not like injured or anything.
He can. I mean, no, I didn't hear of any injury or any. I guess I could ask. It just felt like it was time to pull him off TV for a while. I mean, he's not like a year-round consistent guy. I mean, he's 53 years old or something. But so yeah, I mean, it's just he should be just a special attraction and shows up for a while and then goes away. So unless there's something I don't know about, yeah, I think it was just what we're doing isn't working. He's played out. Let's take him off TV for a while.
Okay. Last thing is, like, a lot of people are streaming this, but they're not liking it. You gotta like the YouTube channel and the videos and subscribe, because that will show up in other people's algorithms and feeds where people don't know about the show. So just support your guy.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. We got a graphic for it. I just don't say it enough, and I talk about VIP and other podcasts. I should probably push that more. We're still easing into YouTube. I'm not, I should be more aggressive in marketing and stuff. I probably should. I enjoy the format, and we have our podcast audience, and I just figure we'll grow. But you're right, we should be more proactive. So everybody out there, right now, like this. We're gonna stop and wait. We won't say anything interesting until you like the button. So do it, because the show's gonna grind to a halt. All right.
Yeah, you might go back to your old days and being on a website chat line.
Yes. All right. So there we are. Oh, thank you, everybody. Sincere thanks, everybody who liked it. And comments are great too. And of course, subscribe to our channel. And okay, I'll be more aggressive and I was told by my son the like jingle and the subscribe graphics are kind of passe and obnoxious. So I'm trying to low key a little bit, but you've convinced me, Dan.
You just gotta say it once in a while. That's all.
I'm gonna say it all the time now. You're gonna regret this call, Dan.
You're like every other YouTuber then.
No, I won't. I appreciate it. I appreciate the nudge, and it's better coming from you than me, probably. So thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Yeah, you too. Dan has the best microphone of any caller, by the way. That is crisp sounding. He's no offense, Rude Dog. Speaking of which, let's bring Rude Dog on, see what he has to say. Next video caller, Rude Dog. Hendrick, formerly of Portland. How's it going?
That's correct.
Now of Jersey.
Now Jersey. Hey, Darrin. Hey, Wade. Darrin, I want to compliment you on your TNA coverage. It's actually made me start watching TNA again. I can't believe I'm interested in what Dana Brooke is doing these days. Act by elegance. That's kind of crazy. So.
Yes, almost like the New Day making a revival. I don't know which is more impressive.
For real.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of New Day, I got hit with a pancake before when they were chucking them out, and it was annoying at the time, but I found it funny when the guy came out with pancakes again. And yeah, this was the first time I actually got a laugh out of the New Day in seemingly years, so that was pretty cool. But So also the opening segment. I mean, one person you didn't talk too much about is Liv Morgan. Like I think she's gotten much better on the microphone. Like she used to be pretty bad and just hard to listen to, but now I'm actually intrigued with what she has to say. And how do you think she's doing as a championship, as a champion, and holding that championship? And is it just inevitable that she's going to lose it to Rhea Ripley, or can you see her having like a larger reign?
I wrote in my Raw report, cheap plug at PWTorch.com, that I thought Liv did really good this week, and she seems to get this seems to be the role for her that she's growing more comfortable with. It's been a long journey. I talk about all the time, all the things she's had, all the different reboots and all of that. They saw something in her. They just didn't find the right lane for her to be in. And I think she's in a good spot now. And I think she's doing the best work. I don't think she's great on the mic, but I think she's good in this role. You know, genuinely like good. Sometimes you're sort of intentionally bad. Like I think Nia Jax, sort of her resting face acting is bad. Her resting face is bad acting. Like I think that's actually kind of part of her shtick, is that her delivery feels like bad acting. So you can have something that isn't a natural gift of hers and it can actually play into her gimmick. With Liv, it didn't. Like with Liv, it was, this is grinding segments to a halt bad. And awkward and, you know, cringy. I'll say the word again. Now she kind of feels like she's found a little groove playing off of Dom in this role and has maybe some confidence she didn't have before. Darren, what do you think?
Yeah, this is some of her best work. As far as the title change, I'm kind of torn. I don't think she necessarily needs it in this role. And if Rhea beat her, I don't think that's like the end of her character. It would be devastating. Also, they need to get that title back in the mix to get the women's division rolling again. So I'm not opposed to her losing it, and I don't think she would lose that much steam if she would lose it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a strong feeling either way. I mean, you've given fans the Jey Uso win, the Rhea one. They might stretch out longer. I don't feel like this is like Drew Punk. I mean, Drew's promo by the way, this week was like, I'm done putting thought into my promos and I just want to move on. Like, I mean, not to sidetrack our conversation, yes. But like Drew's like, I'll give you 2.5, 3 minutes here, maybe 4 if I stretch it out. But I've been doing good work and now you're really pushing it. Let's just get this damn match over with and I want to move on. And it wasn't even bad. It was just like it was so just like
he phoned it in.
He phoned it in, and he's still good when he phones it in.
Sure,
but there was no trolling. There was no just your family doesn't want you to be in a cell. My family doesn't, and then you better be ready to die because I am, or you're ready for it to be the end. And it's like, okay, throw the mic down, leave. I mean, it was just, and I think we all relate to Drew. We're really ready for this. So anyway, I straight off topic, Rude Dog, but back to you.
No, that's fine. No, I think Liv's doing the best work she's done maybe ever. So thumbs up on her. But you're talking about Bad Blood. What do you think of the build-up so far to Bad Blood? Did this Raw make you more interested in Bad Blood, or does it just seem like another secondary like PLE?
Darren, what do you think?
They really didn't overdo it on promoting Bad Blood. I know that they reshowed the Cody Roman thing again, but as far as matches from Raw, I'm hard pressed to think of what they even promoted, because they did not make Gunther against Sami Zayn official again. They're dragging that out. They did more to promote the Battle of the Monsters, which was an impressive promo with them walking down like Godzilla or whatever.
How did they make that so quickly, Darren? They had to do that in 2 hours.
Yes.
I mean, the match wasn't even official until this impromptu backstage brawl. By the way, we cannot call this a good episode of Raw, even if you think it's good, because they had that stupid fake concession stand in the garage area where wrestlers enter. Did they sell merch to wrestlers when they arrive in the garage? They're not that hard up for money. What I almost swore there. What were they doing? with that. My God, it was like when Kamala called Trump a like an M without saying it, and then switched to former president. Wanda Sykes has a great video on out there on TikTok on that. A lot of people in certain intended audience picked up on what she's admitted is her favorite in her favorite swear. And it's like, what is going on with a like 1978 style merch table backstage with the wrestlers? Like, is there nobody backstage with a filter that goes, this is effing stupid? Why do we need a merch table here? Just set up a table, some cables on it. Like, am I missing something, Rude Dog? Darren's laughing. He's on my side. Why was there a merch table in the parking garage area? I'm angry about this.
He's got to maximize sales.
Stop it, WWE. That's like it's worse than the. I would argue that's worse than the sheetrock fake wall that they went through last week. But anyway, Al Archer said I thought the same thing. Like what's the like? It's not even. It doesn't like you go. What's the big deal? They got to knock over some merch. Wade, cool down. Why bother doing that? Someone had to think that was a good enough idea to do. It's not even like happenstance. It's not like they had to undo something. They had to think, wouldn't it be cool if, and it didn't cross their mind, everybody's watching going to know it's fake and it's stupid. And we're idiots back here suggesting that like, anyway, I did almost drop an F-bomb. All right. Anyway.
I'm going to try saying more things to make you swear, I guess. Well, speaking of which, so Joe Tessitore, I agree, was really good tonight. Like, he's seeming like a natural.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting. He actually mentioned like a wrestling podcast. He was like, if you listen to Busted Open or any other industry podcast.
Thanks, Joe. I put you over last week. Wasn't enough. I put you over this week. Come on, mention us next time.
Yeah. But he didn't mention the torch, but I thought it was interesting they're actually acknowledging, like, wrestling sources. Like, I mean, I don't remember WWE like ever doing that.
Busted Open sort of in that realm of not being completely independent. I mean, they're like, technically independent, but it's about wrestlers and I don't know. I mean, it feels a little bit, I don't want to media critique or anything. I'm just trying, like, just genuine. I'm not putting a negative spin on it. It's just, I think it makes more, they seem like more of a cooperative.
It seems like a WWE approved.
Yeah. I mean, like, they're sort of aware we better not say that if we want that guy on the show, that kind of thing. I mean, I think they have from, things that I hear, and I do so many podcasts, I don't hear a lot of others, and I've got some favorites, but with people who I like just respect or have on my show that I listen to, or people part of the Torch lineup, which keeps me busy enough. But from what I've heard, it seems like there's somebody that WWE wouldn't mind plugging. I'll put it that way. Mentioning on the air, they're a friendly landing place for sort of promotional interviews, and so there's place for everything as long as they're honest about what they're doing. And as far as I know, they are. So, but nevertheless, feel free. I mean, I don't want to seem co-opted. But if they want to be credible, just mention some other ones too. Rude Dog, right? Start with the Torch. Start with Wade Keller.
Oh, Carly.
We want some Wade Keller podcast signs at arenas. Somebody had a giant Wade Keller head a few years ago at ringside. I think it was like a Raw. And it was like, when that was like the thing to do, like I was like, who was that? And wow, it was just a giant cutout of my podcast head. But I'm for some free publicity, Now they're going to send out word to security. Don't let any Wade Keller signs through. See if you can slip one through, people. Anyway.
I'll try.
Yes. All right, enough about that meta nonsense. Go ahead.
So another thing, the Wyatt 6 were barely mentioned at all today. Like, they had a very short video. Are they just like a dead act now, or what?
Darren.
They did have a little skit when they went to a commercial, a little segment alluding to something that's going to be happening. So I guess they're still on the radar, but they're taking a little break, it would seem, maybe a reset or something.
I don't know. It seems a
Yeah.
little early to reset them.
Yeah.
I mean, they just debuted. You know what I mean? I was
Yeah.
just
Rude Dog, I looked at the chat and I tuned you. I don't know what you're talking about. I want to be brought into this. What'd you bring up? It was such a quick
I
question.
was just saying the Wyatt 6, they barely got mentioned. They had a short video. Are they a dead act now? Or
I've said for weeks that they seem creatively abandoned. I mean, I really do. I don't know if they're just waiting to heat them up when they get past us, bad blood or something like that. But I'm kind of worried and bummed out. Yeah, I mean, Sadler version 3, I just saw peripherally, just said, I don't think the Wyatt 6 should be on every show anyway. That's a gimmick that should be kept fresh. And I agree with that, but you don't, right now they feel creatively abandoned in the sense that Rude Dog, they're not advancing their characters. Like we're not learning about the supporting cast. Bo Dallas is really good without the mask, and I think he's kind of with just blah with the mask on when he's wrestling. And it just the signal to me is more, I don't know if this is going to work, more than it is let's save them for a big moment once we get past bad blood. But that said, they might have they might be waiting for, like, for instance, someone in the chat said maybe Judgment Day is their next feud. Maybe they're just laying low until Judgment Day is free from the stuff they're doing, and then they're going to heat them up again. And I hope that's the case, because I think there's a lot of untapped, unexplored content with all the characters and all the personalities there. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they should be on TV all the time, but they seem like they've just dropped the ball on them completely. And
yeah,
I don't want, for all the build up when the memory of Bray Wyatt, to have them just fall through the cracks would be really sad. So I hope that doesn't happen.
I totally agree.
All right. One last thing. How do you think the Creed brothers are doing so far? And do you think it works with them being with Chad Gable? Is it a help or a hindrance?
I'd say too early to tell, Darren. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a little bit early. They're in a good spot. They're getting featured. They had some good comedy timing in the skit in there earlier, so that's good. And they're putting on some good matches. So until they're ready for something bigger, I think this is a good place to have them featured. So I think they're doing well for just coming up and everything. So
from watching, if you're a WWE fan, just watching what they've done on the main roster, there's not a lot of personality there, and Gable provides that. And I mean, they fit, the singlet amateur background type thing. I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm not in a huge hurry. I like, there's some talent where it's just like, oh, they're, like if Braun Breaker was there just standing silently as part of the group, I'd be like, no, they should be doing more with him. But I'm okay with the Creeds in this spot. But I hope in 2 years we're talking about them as a tag team, or perhaps Julius breaks off or something like that, being in a better spot. But yeah, I mean, I'm okay. I mean, they put a lot behind Chad Gable. It does feel like they, again, when we read into the booking, and I'm talking about the Wyatts, and it just feels like they're creatively abandoned right now. The Creeds, it sort of feels like, we don't have a lot for them. Let's just put them with Gable, and we'll worry about them later and see how they do. I mean, that's kind of the vibe I get. But I don't think they're wrong, and I don't think it dooms them. But they're also not getting reps being personalities. I mean, Brutus doing his high-pitched voice thing was weird. I don't know if that's going to help in the long run. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, mixed feelings, but I'm not in panic mode about them. I mean, they're great athletes, but they're also like kind of, they're into doing super athletic stuff, but I'm not seeing them showing signs of kind of that WWE style of, it's about more than spots. It's about between moves. It's about pacing. It's about making every move count. It sort of feels like show off wrestling. And, I'm less of a fan of that. And I think maybe they're being looked down upon a little bit for having that style. And this is a way to kind of train them, sort of indoctrinate them into the WWE approach a little bit more with some practice. There's just not a lot of house shows these days either, which hurts. Greg Parks wrote about that too. So yeah. Michael Gross says the Creeds are still too green. The stutter booking of them hurts. Yeah. I mean, if they had kept them in NXT for 2 more years and they made a big splash like Braun Breaker when they were ready, and it's like, we're going to go all in, that is a better scenario, but that's not what happened. Rudog, anything else?
Yeah, I just felt they had a lot more personality in NXT, and their call up did not seem premature to me whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're just kind of guys that can wrestle. But...
Well, people wanted Braun Breaker called up sooner, and I said anytime it got brought up, just because someone's ready doesn't mean it's the right time to bring them up. You only want to be brought up not when you're ready, but when they're ready for you. And I think the Creeds were ready in certain ways, even though I'm saying, they're kind of spot, like look what we can do with double team moves and our athleticism. And they were strong in that area, but it wasn't like refined into, and they're not the worst at this, but like that was my observation watching their matches. I could imagine the people in WWE who evaluate, what do these guys bring that they might be not super high in certain aspects of what they brought, but it's that aside, let's say they're like Rudog said, they're totally ready. There's got to be a spot for you, or else don't bring you up. Paul Levesque said about, at an NXT Q&A years ago, he's like, if we have a good shortstop, and then we have a shortstop in NXT who's ready to be, or in the AAA who's ready to be called up, we're not going to call him up because we don't need a shortstop. So if we need a left fielder, that left fielder might not be as good as a shortstop, but we need a left fielder, so they get called up. Like, call ups aren't just merit based; they're need based. And maybe the Creeds were called up when WWE wasn't ready to, push them because they weren't committed to, a good program from the a commitment to the tag division with them is a big part of it. David Hogan says, a new laugh from Brutus. I hope that doesn't lead to the Creeds being comedy only. They are way too Steiner-esque to be comedy. Yeah. And Sadler version 3 says, I thought they were too goofy on NXT after they left Diamond Mine. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'd rather they be a little badass, but maybe they think that's too Braun Breaker, so they want them to be different.
Yeah.
We're talking anything else?
No, that's about it. I will be going to Grand Slam on Wednesday. I'll try to give you a call. I could send you a email to remind you, but
yeah, we'll look for you.
I don't usually like collisions are skippable, but they kind of like make them more noteworthy at the Grand Slam environment. So if you see me on the queue, get to me as soon as possible so I can see something.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, sure. I'll probably be calling in the venue. So,
and if you can't join us, or even if you are planning to, you can email us too during the show, wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com, and let me know what's going on. I can pass that along during the show too.
Okay.
Cool.
By the way, that is a fantastic Jeff Jarrett t-shirt.
Yeah. With my baby tonight. That is that sold currently?
I think it's actually a bootleg shirt. But no, it's definitely. I mean, because it has the WWF logo on it.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure if it was ever actually sold and like it's a reprint type deal, but it's definitely not official. So
fun.
Hopefully the feds don't come and take it off my my body now. But yeah. So, yeah.
Cool.
I'll be singing along with my baby tonight on Wednesday. So
I covered that in real time in the lip syncing and the Jarrett's denying it. Like they were I mean, oh my God, go VIP to read the back issues and march through that stuff. Our coverage of that scandal. I mean, it was like Milli Vanilli. It was like, yeah, it was Jeff Jarrett wanted to be like seen as a good singer. And I still don't know. I mean, it's all covered in real time back then. I want to go back and reread that stuff. That was a weird situation. Yeah. Anyway, that's a whole topic for that. We could do a whole show on that. Darrin, what are your memories of the lip syncing with My Baby Tonight era?
For many years, that was the only country song I liked.
Yeah, it was a good song. It was catchy, I think.
It was really catchy.
Yeah.
And I guess that was Road Dogg actually singing.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, as I recall. Yeah, but very catchy song. So did enjoy it.
Yeah. Jerry Jarrett wasn't thrilled when it got out that. I mean, did they really think that was not going to get out? All right.
Probably.
Thanks, Drew Dog.
Have a great night. Good to see y'all.
Yep. Thanks, dude.
Bye.
Thanks, dude. So Dan just had one comment about the Wyatts. Yes, in my opinion, dead act videos every week. I guess, Dan, you're being sarcastic in that there's videos every week, but you can be a dead act because the videos are just sort of like, hey, we're here, but that's why I say not a dead act, but creatively abandoned. Like, I just don't think there's any effort being put in to add dimensions to the group. But again, I think there's a very good chance they are just, biding their time until it's time, and it's just not quite time yet. They're just sort of in a holding pattern, and that's fine. Al Archer said, it feels like we're getting a slow build to an actual tag division, laying groundwork, getting us familiar with teams. So yeah, hopefully that'd be nice. Okay, let's go to an email here from JB, hitting a couple topics we haven't covered yet. Hi, Team JB from Detroit. First, Dom got the mullet. Tonight, he got the lowrider. What token part of Eddie Guerrero's act will he get next? I'm half joking. Do you think it's possible they are intentionally taking elements of Eddie's persona, not just physical items, and weaving it into Dom's act? Side note, I'm glad Mattel turned the lowrider into a toy, and it is now available for purchase. That was almost as impressive as the video of the Battle of the Monsters that the production crew put together in 2 hours. I mean, I know they got a good team and in place, and they're like, hurry up, let's somehow get Braun to film themselves bumping into each other in a King Kong skyscraper scenario. I don't know. WWE doesn't care that much about certain realistic things.
Right.
Yeah.
Clearly.
The merch table, the quick turnaround, and then the toys. I mean, I guess it's no big deal, but it was. What do you think, Darren?
I mean, I hadn't thought about that aspect originally about the monsters thing. Tremendous production value, especially on like a 10-minute turnaround. But they're thinking out of the box on different production elements, so that is a plus. But yes, sometimes they will shoehorn in stuff that's unrealistic, and maybe that's something they need to address now that they're making different kind of changes to the production. They do have these little gaps. And as you talked about at length on Friday's show with the whole Roman Reigns Cody thing, that kind of took me out of it. I was like, this is kind of ridiculous. So there are little touches like that keep popping up that I think they should definitely keep an eye on.
Our post show took you out of it. Our comments, it was ridiculous.
No, the segment that was
I know.
I
just wanted you to be like, no, I didn't mean that, and be real nervous that you came across that way. So honestly, you felt that way watching it, like it was too slick.
Kind of took me out of it, like over the top, and it's like, well, this isn't really wrestling, and that. I mean, again, very well done, very well produced. You can't take that away from them, but it's just kind of out of place on a wrestling show. It was kind of shoehorned in, and I did not like that aspect of it.
Yeah, it came across. I mean, I compared it to Oasis's third album when they had a bunch of money and a bunch of kind of a big star vibe, and they're like, let's overproduce the hell out of every song. I mean, I went back and I listened to it, and I read a couple reviews of Be Here Now, and it was like I could have exchanged Lowell and Liam for Rock and Cody. I could have exchanged everything pro wrestling related for music. I mean, it was just this bloated, overproduced album. I like it. It's the first Oasis album I bought the day it came out. The other two I caught up on because I got into them after the first two came out. And so it has a soft spot, and there's people out there who defend it, and I will defend it. I mean, I think there's some good songs on there that hold up well, but they all would be better stripped down. They'd all be better, just more. You listen to some of the early Oasis stuff, and it's just pure. It's guitar, and it's Liam's voice, sometimes Noel's voice. I like Noel's better. Just I don't resonate more with me, but it's really good songwriting, really good guitar playing, good. It's just. And then Be Here Now came out, and it went from we're writing music for a club to we're writing music for a stadium show, and we imagine where the lights will be and where the stage will be and where the special effects will be. And they wrote the music for a stadium, and it felt that way. And it lost some of what made Oasis special and just so adored and respected early on when their first 2 albums came out. And those are great rock albums, and will forever be seen that way. So that's how I felt about Rock and Cody, Darrin. It was just, we got this budget, and I made the argument Friday, and we did talk a lot about it, but it was a fascinating topic, and the chat room was super into it. And when that happens, we'll go along with something, because I think chat rooms bring up good points, and people are on all sides of this. But I think that what they got out of it, they could have gotten out of it. The positives that came out of how big, and I saw people on Twitter saying, "Oh, this is why wrestling should be up for Emmy Awards," and it's like, that was not Reigns' better acting, and Cody was not. Just wasn't. Honestly, I don't think it was very good acting. It felt like they were doing 7 takes, and it was a long day. And I thought the lines were cheesy. And I mean, I was kind of surprised at people with opinion I respect who were like gushing about this as pro wrestling at its highest art form. To me, pro wrestling at its highest art form is when fans are going, "Refs, you suck," because they want to see Jey Uso win a title, and then they pop big for him winning a title. That's pro wrestling. But the positive from it, and I don't disagree there's a positive, and they might have been cognizant that they were going a little cringy overboard, is they wanted it to have an impact and create a buzz and make Cody and Roman and them teaming together and make them feel like the biggest stars of this era. And that setting did it. My argument Friday is they could have had all that in the stadium without all the overproduction, without the just corny music, and without 7 SUVs for a baby face, a motorcade. Why does he need them? I mean, it's just, everything was just like, hey, I have an idea. Let's make this more grandiose and self-important. And it neither guy came across to me all that grounded. And one of, I think, the things people like about Cody is, yeah, he takes himself seriously and all that, but he's not like, his head's not that big. He just wants to be in the back signing autographs for his fans. So I don't know, Darrin, elaborate more on your thoughts and some of the things that I had to say there too.
Well, they weren't too self-aware about it, because they showed it again tonight, which usually they don't show the SmackDown stuff on Raw too much.
Well, my point on self-aware is, I think they might have been self-aware of what the criticism would be, that this is a little self-important, grandiose, overproduced. And if they knew that making it, then they're fine and probably showing it again on Raw. My argument is, we'll take the good with the bad. We know that this is a little over the top, quite a bit over the top. I mean, sort of like, I would argue a little cringy over the top, but we're willing to do that in order to have a cinematic moment that people will talk about and remember, that makes Cody and Rock feel like huge deals. And, but like it's just my philosophy. And obviously people disagree and thought it was great. And that's, some people did. Some people are like you, and a lot of people have our opinion too, and thought it was a little much. But I think pro wrestling is at its best when you make things organic and realistic in every way that you possibly can within the framework or whatever you're trying to accomplish. And sometimes you have to make strategic sacrifices to that. Don't put a fake concession table in the garage area where wrestlers enter. That's just stupid. There's nothing to be gained from it. That's just an easy call. This is a less easy call because the cinematic production was grandiose. It made it feel like these are 2 huge stars and this is a really big deal. But I will trade some of the all the camera angles and jump cuts and all that for something more realistic. And like just a little thing, like having for the wide shot of them walking off the field, I want to see the 2 camera guys who filmed them on the field with them. It feels fake that there weren't camera guys there when they went to the wide shot. It made it seem like, there's no, like in football, they have zoom cameras now that can be off the football field, but you can see the nose hairs of the quarterback. But obviously there's no reason to use a long form camera to film this. They had cameras right up by Cody and Roman, but then they just were invisible when they went to a wide shot. So that just sort of consciously or subconsciously says this was all just a movie. It wasn't a moment that happened organically that we happened to film. We got together and planned everything out and took 7 takes and spliced it all together. And that's not organic. It feels like we're big deals and we're going to put a little cinematic mini movie together. And I wanted it to be filmed like Roman and Cody were there and we're privileged to be able to film it. And we're just scrambling to try to catch the facial reactions, but it might be not quite as glossy and perfect as a movie. Darrin.
Yeah, and that's kind of what took me out of it, is that it was obviously a big pre-produced thing that was not organic in the least. So it was like, we're going to put on a movie here or something, and that just took me out of it. You could apply those arguments also to the little trailer that they did for Braun Strowman against what's his name, former Jonah,
Braun Breaker.
Uh,
wait, no.
Bronson Reed.
Bronson Reed.
Bronson Reed, right? A lot of Braun going
Vince
on
McMahon
there.
was right. You got to change everybody's name. You can only have one of each.
But you could apply that argument to them as well, because I'm thinking of, I mean, they must have spent a decent amount of production money on that as well, for just going totally over the top for, and this is just a TV match. This isn't like the main event of WrestleMania or anything, but they're making a big deal of this. And sure, you should absolutely promote things, but this was a little bit over the top. And then logically, how did you know the match was coming? Which is a very big point that you made, and that will kind of take some people out of it as well. So yeah, they're on a kick of kind of flexing that production budget, but you have to also make it make sense also. So I think they're working on balancing that.
I mean, someone needed to walk in when Be Here Now was ready to go and tell Liam and Noel, you guys did too much coke. And I mean, I don't think that had to do with the WWE thing, but it definitely had something to do with Oasis, by the way. You guys are full of yourselves and you need to be more organic. Let's strip this down. Not every song is 30% longer, 30 to 40% longer than a Britpop song should be. And you have way too many layers and post-production going on. Let's unplug some things and strip this down. And because the songwriting's great and the lyrics, whatever. So I think some things are better when they feel organic, and rock and roll and pro wrestling, I think both are. It's not an evolutionary thing. And by the way, they could have filmed it organically, Darrin, but then on Raw have a video package that adds a bunch of, like post-production spice to it. But the original thing felt more organic. And then, 3 days later on Raw, you have something that's, kind of shined up and reduced in length. And that's where you can do, more cinematic stuff. They had this. I'm not against being in the stadium. I know some people are like, why did they need to be there? I think there was a foundation for that. It's Roman's college. He wants to meet. But I said this Friday, Cole should have said Roman and Cody are big stars, and there's a lot of moving parts around them. And there's a lot of baggage here between Cody and Roman and the bloodline, and fans are chanting and taking sides and all. They just wanted to get back to the roots. Roman wanted to be at an empty football stadium where he's got a history. Cody's got a history in the city too. They brought a couple cameras, they invited the camera crews to come with them so we could all share in this moment. And we're glad that they did, but they wanted to have a talk, just those two, no fans, no other wrestlers around, and talk out what this moment means for them as longtime rivals teaming up. And I would have rather had them set the stage that way than just go to it. And I mean, they just felt super proud that they made a little mini movie, for your Emmy consideration. And it felt too heavy handed in that way.
Yeah. And that's what I thought we were going to get, was they would put a camera out there and then we'd see them interact. They could do one take and then that was that. We did not get that though.
No, we didn't. And I mean, I just, you can do a wide shot of the city. I mean, but just the motorcade, all the cutaways, and frankly, I mean, some of the scripting was cringe too. I know Fightful reported that Jeremy Borash and Paul Heyman were a big part of it, and Borash has done some great work for TNA over the years. He's a super hardworking guy behind the scenes, and Paul Heyman has big ideas. And I'm, someday I think he'll probably talk about this and what he and Jeremy, and Cody and Roman, everybody thought about this, and I'm sure Paul Levesque, and talk about what went into it. But I mean, teach their own. But you and I aren't alone. I mean, the chat room is. One guy, who said, let's see, JC Scoopy said, it really made me dislike Cody more, like in AEW. Dan said, why did they need to film it at GT Stadium? Roman was there and made no impact there. I mean, there's that also thing, like, this is my stadium. And it's like,
was he really?
Mr. Heisman Trophy winner? Like, what? Like, I mean, you're a baby face.
Me as well. It's like,
yeah.
Did I miss something?
You're a baby face. I'm glad Cody made fun of the 7-car SUV Caravan, but like, people want to like Roman Reigns, and that's kind of who do you think you are, and why did you need that? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to belabor the point. Maybe we have. I hope not. But yeah, I think that's not there. Okay, I'll get back to in a moment, not right now, the email. But we've got Rivers with us, who attended the event tonight. Our on-site correspondent, Rivers, welcome. Thanks for calling. Thanks for listening. And I'm sure it's been a long night as we talked about the Rock Cody segment that they replayed tonight. So how are things going? How was the show tonight?
Good. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can. Yep.
Awesome. I do have one thing to say about that video segment, the Roman thing. I've been thinking about it more, and Wade, if you watch a true drama, a true crime kind of documentary on Netflix with talking heads, they will leave in a bit where the person sits down or plays with their mic pack or even says, which camera is it? Is it this one? Now, there's absolutely no reason for them to have that in, especially in something that is supposed to be real anyway. But it's that imperfection in the editing which allows people to view it in a more realistic light. Yeah. And that's something that is completely unnecessary in documentaries. And I think maybe WWE is going a bit overboard in what they can do. Yeah. And they forgot you have to make it a little bit imperfect for it to actually land correctly.
Yeah. No, totally.
Yeah, and this is the second time I've seen that because they showed it on the screen today during commercials. And I watched the last line again, and it's like we all understood the metaphor of Cody stepping in front of Roman and him saying, "You're in my way." It seemed like someone had the note, maybe they won't get it, so we need to have Roman say, "In my life."
Yeah.
And it just seemed very heavy-handed now that I've watched it twice.
And then WWE social media said, "You're in my way of life." They quoted him wrong on social media Friday night. I was scrolling through my phone looking at how WWE was portraying it. I don't know if you guys know those weird Botox commercials where they have the person in the studio talking about Botox. They've got a guy, like a gay guy who's worried about crow's feet, and then they got the straight woman who's like, "I want to look young again after being a mom." And they do what you just said. Darren's looking at me like, "Where are you going with this?" And Rivers, they do the same thing where when they're talking about all the potential side effects, your face might fall off. That doesn't happen with Botox, but it was something like that. Like, there can be side effects. But they show the person like getting mic'd up, and it's like, oh, this is a real person, not an actor. Cause look, they were nervous and joking with the producer off camera. That is something not just done in the context you said, but even that Botox commercial series, which is
also to take it all the way back to Oasis. I think in Urban Hymns, there is a lyric, "True perfection has to be imperfect."
Yeah.
And I think that maybe is a line that WWE could take note of.
That's the Verve, right?
Urban Hymns. No, I thought it was Oasis.
No, Urban Hymns is Verve.
Oh, okay.
But
well,
great.
I
love the Verve too, and I saw them in person. And that the Verve's Urban Hymns is. Go listen to it, people. It's wonderful.
So how did we do as a crowd? Because where I was, we seemed pretty hot. There was the tag match, which I think was a lull. But then I think we came back at the end. I think we did pretty good.
I thought, the main event, you were great. Yeah, I mean, it was like, the crowd at Rivers. The moment when the crowd is chanting "Ref, you suck," and I commented earlier in the show and in my written report on the website, I love that because they weren't chanting "This is awesome," like "What a great story you're telling us," and we are deciding how many stars it's going to get, and now it's moved into "We feel special because we got a great match." Instead, it was "We want Jay to win, damn it," and "Ref, you didn't count to 3." It was like, so tell me about the vibe, and we'll get back to your question about the crowd overall. But while we're talking about that main event, was the vibe in the arena? This is a real sporting event, and damn it, we're rooting for Jay, and the more we cheer, that's like a power play in hockey. The louder we cheer, the more chance he has to win. Did it come across as kind of a special night in that way?
I haven't been to a live show in a number of years. Last time I was there, it was cool to cheer the heels and all that. When I noticed way more families, way more people with their kids or girlfriends or wives. Perhaps the girlfriends and wives were the fans, but it seemed like they were coming along. And I think that atmosphere lends itself to going along with the show. Like the kids want the baby faces to just win. They don't know anything about the backstage politics or anything like that. And for me in my section, that was contagious. Like you had the kids really, really wanting Jay to win. So you would not feel right cheering against him. And it was that kind of atmosphere of we are here to enjoy the show for what it is, and we will try and elevate the show. Like we will get behind the faces, we will boo the heels. That was a pleasure compared to like a number of years ago where I would go and it was all kind of sarcastic and snarky. So I think like jeering the ref for making that decision is just because we were fully on board with what they were giving us as a show. We weren't second guessing it. I will say, I was not expecting a title change. Is Braun injured or in trouble?
No, I think they just, I mean, I don't think so. I think they want to tell the story that this cocky punk who did push-ups in the middle of a match, his cockiness caught up to him and he's not as good as he thinks he is. I think it's a great story. I don't think there's anything to read into it.
Did you guys get the promo on the steps when he was sat afterwards?
No.
Okay,
tell
yeah,
us
because Wade, I don't know if he was late for something because he ran up the ramp as soon as I thought the show had finished.
Yeah.
But then there was more cheering, and the I can't remember her name, but she came up to Jay, who was still in the crowd, and asked him his thoughts. And he went on for a while about how great it is. He's been here for a while. First title, he he owes it to the crowd, and it was such a great opportunity to get in his home state of California, and that's what sent us home. So after that, and then they played his music again, we all yeeted, and then that was it.
Looks like that was Jackie Redmond, and it's on WWE's Twitter X page. He was in the crowd where she interviewed him, Rivers, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so they did tweet that out, so people can watch it. It's a 2-minute emotional interview with him, and I love it. I hadn't seen this yet. I just, when you bring it up, I'm like, I bet they filmed that for social media, and sure enough, there it is. It's great. I mean, they know Jay's thing is film him. It's like John Moxley comes out through the crowd, babyface or heel, comes through the crowd, doesn't come through the entrance because he's a rebel and he's not hanging out backstage. He's got his own way of doing things, a little play off the Shield too, of course. Jay is a man of the people. He's in the concourse, he's in the crowd, and it makes sense that after he wins his singles title, they'd put him in the crowd, surrounded by people cheering him. I think that's cool optics. I look forward to see was there anything after that, or did the crowd? Because was the crowd just hanging out to watch Jay?
Yeah, that was it. It kind of flowed. The only reason I thought you wouldn't have seen it is because I saw Wade run up the ramp. So I was like, oh, the show must be over if Wade's left. But yeah, that was maybe only 5 minutes after that. Yeah,
but the crowd, I mean, I like your observation, like, because the family are there, the fans are there to play along. I've advocated for years against the "this is awesome" chants and all the meta stuff. I don't think that's the highest form of compliment if you're a wrestler, and I want to say that, and I want to say it over and over until people realize you're not complimenting you're complimenting some wrestlers, but I would like to have a chat with those wrestlers if they think it's a compliment myself. It's not the highest level. I mean, it's better than no reaction, or people mocking you. But the highest compliment is what Jay and Braun got tonight, which is fans cheering the babyface, booing the heel, rooting for one wrestler over the other for good reason, not just because a promotion decided to cast somebody in a certain role and the fans just, eat what they're fed. It's because they genuinely know Jay is likable and Braun is a cocky jock who people imagine would bully them when they were in school. And so it's perfectly cast, and Jay's got this backstory that goes back to the bloodline, and it's a big moment, and Braun now can't have the Gunther run, the record-breaking run. He was already talking about it, and he was super cocky, and people pop for Jay. Saying "ref, you suck," I mean, it might get a little old to people overindulge in every near fall doing that, but to me it was a sign, not "this is awesome," we're not going to chant "this is awesome," but we're into this and we wanted Jay to win. That's just successful booking, and WWE has the fans on their side. That's one of the headwinds AEW has right now. When they launched 5 years ago, WWE had a whole bunch of people who were kind of hate watching and hate going to WWE and protesting what they were watching. And now WWE's found an audience, a very big audience that is loyal and supportive, and the AEW stands don't like it, but let people enjoy what they like. If you don't have to be bitter about the fact that WWE is outdrawing AEW. AEW can have their niche, just hold them to high standards to do their niche better, or as well as they can. But WWE's figured things out, especially under Paul Levesque. Darrin, chime in on this.
Yeah, I have noticed a shift to they're not cheering heels and that kind of thing, and it's. I mean, you should be giving the people what they want. It just took sad that it took them all these years to figure that out, and one big personnel change at the top also. As far as the live show, was anyone upset that CM Punk wasn't there? He's probably the biggest Raw star, if I'm not mistaken.
I would say apart from the Yeet merchandise, the second biggest merchandise I saw was CM Punk merchandise. And I thought because we had Drew 2 weeks ago by himself, then we had Punk last week by himself, I would have bet money that Punk would have come out and there'd have been some sort of confrontation between them. So I was disappointed that Punk wasn't there. I think I realized he wasn't going to come out because the segment before that was the Braun segment, and he ran out from the crowd and attacked. So I thought they're probably not going to do that again in back-to-back segments. Drew was getting a what chant, which I didn't appreciate. I don't know if that came across.
No, I didn't hear that.
Oh, good. It was just the guy behind me then. But yeah, I think it would have been good if Punk was there, but I think the show was good enough and sent us home on such a high note that people weren't talking about Drew or Punk. They were talking about their last match.
Yeah, it came across to us like Drew was like, I'll give you a promo, but not a great one. I'm ready to move on. That's what it came across.
Yeah. Oh, one thing that got me, and I should have known better, was Gunther. And I think I liked the touch of him coming out in ring attire, because I've seen that a lot. Someone comes out and they do the fake out of not tonight. But because he was in his ring attire, I was hook, line, and sinker thinking, oh, we're going to get this match. Like, there's no way Sammy's going to win, but we're going to get this title match. And then, obviously, he pulled the rug out from us. So that was a big, not disappointment, but it was at the high of thinking you're going to get it. And then, of course, we're not going to get it.
Yeah. Darrin, what do you think?
I thought that was well done because I was fooled as well. I thought they would have about to have some confrontation. Again, like River said, I didn't think the title would change by any means, but I was like, oh, we're about to see something. And then he just, in a very fun way, just smiled and said no. And I thought that was so well done. His interactions are just continuing to evolve and improve, and he's really something. I was also impressed, speaking of that segment, with Kaiser. I think down the line he's going to be a big player for them, somebody that they can rely on, because he was really good in that match. And that
he was great during the commercials.
Oh, really?
Just healing it up. Even just the walk he does, it makes you want to push him over. And I thought, you would have no problem if you put him out there. I would absolutely trust him to control the crowd, do what he needs to do. And he looked like he could be, at worst, a really safe pair of hands. At best, he could be something special.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, that's how I feel. I think there's a lot there. I mean, it was the right finish tonight. I mean, Sammy's trying to build up to a world title shot, but yeah, he's good. He's good. And a lot of good observations on your part too, of just things you notice in person.
This is the first time I've been to pay-per-views, house shows, but this is the first time I've been to a televised thing. So this is the first time I've been to anything with commercial breaks.
Interesting, yeah.
They've got to do better. Like, I think they're doing better than they had, but I don't understand why they can't just give someone the mic for 5 minutes to either cut a heel promo or just to cut a babyface, "Hey, your town's so great" promo. Because we saw a couple of, it's just commercials for things on the network. And things like that. And we saw a couple of videos twice. And I'm thinking, like, Kofi's in the ring right now. Just give Kofi a mic, keep us entertained for 4 minutes. And then if you take it off him and then play one of the videos to get the timing right, that would be better than just commercials.
Yeah. They were really bad about it years ago, and they started getting better. Maybe they're getting a little complacent about it. You're charging a lot of money for tickets, and you don't want people to feel they're just props at a TV show who are just sort of not being treated well, So, I mean, and I like the idea of wrestlers cutting promos, especially when they come out to the ring and are waiting for a match. If it's just a regular commercial break, you can do fun videos showing doing trivia with people in the crowd or whatever. But yeah, keep people entertained, make them feel like being there in person gives them something extra.
Was so from the opening segment, what it looked like to us in the arena was Dom and Liv got out the car, they were walking, and then Braun Strowman just ran into some sort of merchandise stand.
Yep.
Was anyone there? Why did he run into that? Because it just looked like he ran past camera and crashed into a table.
Yeah, he did. And what's a merchandise table doing backstage where the wrestlers enter through the garage? I mean, and it was just dumb. I mean, they just wanted a high impact moment, and Testator going, they're still fighting, it's still going on. It was a little too cute. I mean, it's fine if they're just WWE needs to work harder at making things feel authentic and organic where possible, so that when it's impossible, it doesn't feel like, just do the easy stuff. Take the easy take the easy stuff and don't make it more complicated. You don't need a fake merch table. Have some sort of good explanation for what's going on. But yeah, it was just a way to sell the idea that these two are still fighting, and to set up then the monster. What's it called? The battle of
Last Monster Standing.
Last Monster Standing. Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
I did enjoy that whole spot though.
Yeah.
When they were fighting earlier. I mean, I think because the alternative was watching The Miz, so anything was gonna kind of be better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's ridiculous. I mean, the amount of people that were running down at the end. It's kind of like that Blues Brothers, with all the police cars in the Blues Brothers film, and just all these police cars keep crashing into each other, and you think it's going to stop, and it just keeps going. So I enjoyed that.
Yep. Cool. So was there anything before Raw went on the air that you were there in time to see? Yes,
there was 2 main event matches.
Mm-hmm.
There was Tozawa versus who's the guy he came back dressed like a Roman for a little bit and then went away. He's in the Last Testament or the last. Can't think of his name now. He used to have a bald head. Now he's got hair.
Karrion Kross.
Karrion Kross.
Yes, that's it.
Okay. Yeah.
Tozawa versus Karrion Kross, and then there was a women's match which I can't remember exactly who was in it.
Well, check out PWTorch.com for Mike Myers' WWE Main Event TV reports, and you'll
something that maybe is just a TV thing. They had one main event match, and then they said we're going live on USA in 90 seconds. And I looked at my watch, and we were 22. So I was thinking, what is this? So then they shoot us, I guess, the crowd, pretending we're going live, then just don't mention it and go back to another main event.
You are live. You're live on USA when that happens. They do that during a commercial during the show that precedes Raw, and it's a way to tell people watching whatever's on USA beforehand, hey, this live event's coming up. The crowd's already gathered. Stay tuned when the show ends for that. And that's something that was traditionally
not
done.
Explained.
Yeah,
I was very confused because I was thinking we can't be going live now.
They should tell people we're going to go live on USA for a commercial during the show that's airing to let people know to stay tuned for Raw. I mean, just let people in on it. So you're not, it's free and it's a nice courtesy, so you're not confused. Yeah. Darrell's trying to explain the merch table. He's like, what if it was set up? The table set up for the merchandise before you put the merchandise out because we can't have it sitting in the truck. Nice try. The merch is already up there. The show, now when they open the gates, the merch is all there already. Don't
on the merch. I took a look at the merch table. Wasn't planning on buying anything, but I thought I'll see what's up there. It was the usual stuff plus Cena. It was a lot of Cena stuff. And they must be making so much money on those replica belts.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, well, not everyone, like every 5th person had one of these replica belts. And there was one which was a signature Dudley Boys tag team belt. I like the Dudley Boys just fine, but who is that made for? I was thinking and especially because you'd have to buy 2.
Yeah.
So, they must be making so much on those belts.
That's why Tony introduced the trios titles and had 2 sets of them. It's all about, he doesn't sell merchandise. Doesn't get around to that.
The only
Yeah.
AEW merch I saw, because of where we were, I was expecting there's probably going to be some AEW merchandise. We're in Bucks country. The only thing I saw was someone had the replica AEW belt. That was it. Everything else was actually a lot of retro WWE t-shirts. I don't know if it's people getting back into it and they just dug out their old Austin or their old DX shirt or something like that. But yeah, there's very little or no AEW merchandise that I saw.
Was there any real obvious down part of the show where the crowd lost interest in actual promo or match?
I think it was the women's tag match.
Okay. Yeah.
I think just from the flow of the show, it was probably designed to be that. But I think it got us back at the end. But that was when I was a little worried for the crowd. I was like, I really hope we're not kind of letting these guys down by being dead here.
Darrin, anything else you want to ask of Rivers before?
No, I think we pretty thorough.
Yeah, Rivers, anything else you want to share from the experience? I know for your first TV event, there might be some other observations on your mind.
Well, it was actually my wife's first wrestling event. Well, first big WWE wrestling event. I've dragged her to some smaller ones. She enjoyed it. She liked it. She did not like the fireworks. And we actually saw them setting that up just before the finish of the match. And I thought there was going to be an interference. I was like, oh, they just laid out these pyro strips. Someone's going to come down. But then I realized, oh no, he's going to win because that's going to be Celebration Pyro. And we were kind of, we were close to what would have been the Titantron. So it was very loud. That was the only downside. I think she enjoyed the rest of it. And I had to explain that Joe Hendry was not showing up. That's the only thing that she was disappointed about.
All right, cool. Rivers, thanks for calling up. Glad you had a good time.
No problem. Thanks, guys.
You bet. Take care. All right. So let's see. Darrell says on TV it looked like it was a lot of Yeet merch out there in the crowd and Yeet type signs as well. Sadler version 3 just kind of chiming back in on some of the chats. I think they've overdone the in-ring promos of Punk and Drew. I would like to see a backstage sit-down interview with them separately, kind of like Swerve and JR a few weeks ago. Rude Dog says, I saw the Verve 4 times. Incredible live band. Let's keep the Brit Pop talk streak alive. Well, if it happens organically, Rude Dog, I'm all for it. People listen to people have Spotify now. Go download Be Here Now and listen to the first 3 minutes of the first song, and you'll know what I mean. They'll be like, oh yeah, that's why Wade talked about this. It's just one layer of sound effect. There's literally helicopter sound introducing the first song, like the band's arriving at a stadium and landing, and it's just, but it's not what their first two albums were. And I mean, Cody's got a history. He's at risk, and Roman was rejected as a babyface once. So they got to be careful in terms of trying to make them seem like big stars and being all cinematic, but losing touch with what fans have wanted from Roman as a babyface act and what fans like about Cody. And is this really on brand for them? Dan said Motorcade was cringe. He's not the president. That whole thing was weird. Okay. So back to we'll wrap up just finishing up this email. All right. So JB from Detroit says, I like how Xavier made his complaint with where the New Day was about winning versus losing tonight. It makes them feel like they have an ounce of seriousness to them. Yeah. I mean, they're just seeing Xavier be serious and not have that just corny smile and Kofi goofing off. It's refreshing. It's nice. I'm all for it. Where they headed with the Dragunov opposing the Judgment Day, he was just one wrestler versus a faction, so would they give him an allies in a potential feud? What do you think of that, Darrin?
Who was that now?
Dragunov. And he's crossing paths with Judgment Day. What do you think they're up to there?
Yeah, I like that they're keeping him in the mix and that he's not totally falling off the radar. So from that respect, I'm glad to see that.
Yeah. From both a kayfabe and non-kayfabe perspective, why are we to believe that Miz is even entertaining Karrion Kross, who's been virtually irrelevant for most of his WWE main roster, both of his WWE main roster runs to this point? I don't know. Miz is, I think, doing a pretty good job going, kind of looking at him like, are you serious? I kind of what I don't know what you're up to, but there was a moment where Miz was just healthily skeptical of what he's up to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which he should be. But I mean,
Yeah.
I'm surprised Cross is still on the show. I thought he might go the way of the Wyatt Six. So
Yeah.
good for him, I guess.
Yeah. All right, then Babyface is attacking innocent security guard meter has to be reset tonight. At least Tessitore had the awareness to call one of the guards a poor guy, even though that might be counterproductive to Strowman's best interests. This was, I mean, the term "jump the shark" has, lost
It's
some
getting
of
out of
its-
hand. Yeah.
Well, it got out of hand years ago. I think it's gone full circle now. It's fresh again. I'm gonna say that to defend my use of it. My God, that was a lot of security guys taking a lot of bumps. It did feel like if we were to parody pro wrestling, what would we do? Well, we would have two wrestlers throwing security guys over. It's like a clown car of security. Like it was just like they just kept coming and taking bumps, and one guy's climbing to the top rope cooperatively so that he can be thrown onto another guy. It was just, I mean, Tessitore's got some, cred as a sports announcer. Is he going to get to the point where he's like during commercial break, like, come on, guys, this security stuff's getting a little much. There should be ramifications. These guys are just there to do their job, Darren. Poor guy, as Tessitore said.
Yeah, and they're relying on that way too much every week. It's
fun, but
chaos.
I mean, yeah, you can't have donuts for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, it's like settle down and come up with a different way to tell the story you tell with security guys. Sadler version 3 says one of the bodyguards just walked out of the ring when Bronson was fighting them off. Yes. All right. Then JB says the Wyatt Six haven't been on TV in weeks. I know that they're doing the code thing right now, but we're running the risk of them just getting completely cold. I feel as though they're already on the back burner for most fans where we sit today. Yeah, definitely covered that. I'm not exactly thrilled about a Strowman Reed last man standing match next week. I'm never really a fan of last man standing matches. In general, I feel as though it will be a rather slow and plodding match with two big men like this. What more could we possibly see we haven't seen between them? It's a bit of AW syndrome with having to top themselves and having nowhere to go. I'm guessing they'll do the token ring collapses for big guy's spot. Yeah, this kind of feels like a match where they're going to be like, hey, remember that thing we did 7 and 12 years ago? And it'll go viral. It won't draw money, but it'll go viral. I don't know. Too much of that. Jump in anytime, Darren. Jay winning, well, you don't have to. I'm just saying, like, if I don't throw to you and you got something to say, gentlemen. Jay winning was definitely not what I would have bet on, but I think there were subtle tells throughout tonight's Raw with the mentioning more than once about how Jay was 0-6 in recent title attempts. In hindsight, they wouldn't have kept hammering that point home for such an important wrestler if he was going to lose yet again. Did that cross your mind? They were talking about it so much because, I mean, I kind of talked myself into thinking it's a storyline. Jay's going to be bummed out and despondent, and it might. For all we know, it might lead to something with Bloodline next year. I mean, like keeps coming up short. He realizes he's got to get back to the family and tag team wrestling or something. I didn't see it as like a giveaway.
Yeah, I thought they were headed that way. I thought they were going to build up how much it meant to him and how many chances, and he's been denied the belt. And I thought it was the Bloodline that was going to take it away from him so they could segue into that. That's where I thought it was headed, but
yeah,
it went to a different direction.
Absolutely. Jay winning. I already read that. It was good that they finally did a significant non-PLE title change. It's important to keep the fans engaged in potential surprises. It was also good that they made the match and moment feel important with multiple video packages, the backstage segments with Sammy, etc. Yeah, I like Sammy's pep talk. That was just good. You want to see, I mean, they got a history and they might be linked together again in a Bloodline storyline next year at some point. So I like that. I actually expect Braun to win the title back at Bad Blood in some sort of stipulation match. What are your expectations for the IC title? As always, love the show and go VIP. Darren, yeah, is this? I mean, even if it's a short title reign, I like that they did it. And if they move Jay onto something else, but will fans be kind of bummed out if Jay doesn't?
I think if it's short, that they will, but
Yeah.
they had to do something with him at some point. Have a big win because you couldn't. I mean, his literal gimmick is main event, so you couldn't just have him keep getting beat. So he had to get the belt at some point, and yeah, hopefully they can drag this out for at least a couple months.
Yeah. Cool. Darren, anything else you want to bring up about Raw tonight before we sign off?
No, I think we pretty much hit everything.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, thanks, chat room. Thanks to our video callers, our on-site correspondent, mailbag. Go VIP, everybody. Oh, like our show, Dan. I gotta say it. Like our show if you didn't earlier and when we implored you, or if you joined us midstream or you missed that segment. That helps us. We'd like to grow. Pull some people over, get recommended more often, have some new voices and people joining our commentary. So yeah, like the show, spread the word, make comments. I keep an eye on the comment section a lot of the time, and we'll give a thumbs up or even respond sometimes to them. So consider yourself read. And even best of all, go VIP. PWTorch.com/go VIP. Lots of cool stuff comes with VIP membership. Full list of all those benefits at PWTorch.com/go VIP. You can also get a 7-day free trial by getting our VIP podcast through Patreon. You don't have to go through Patreon, but that allows you to link up with Spotify, which a lot of you have, obviously. You can also, it works on Apple CarPlay if you sign up with a regular VIP membership or through the VIP podcast. Search PWTorch in your podcast app. Besides the PWTorch Dailycast colorful logo, there's a charcoal gray logo that pops up, and that includes free samples of VIP shows and a chance to upgrade within the app using your Apple account. It's as frictionless for iPhone users as anything, and you get all the VIP shows, all our free shows without the commercial breaks, and also access through iPhone and CarPlay. So a lot of good ways to consume our content and get bonus content, and also dive into those archives. You can read about the Jeff Jarrett lip sync controversy, everything that's happened in the last 35 plus years we covered contemporaneously. You can see what I was writing about it, what our team was writing about it, and look at it through the lens of what people thought at that moment in time. So it's a pretty cool experience, and it's nice to have access to our body of work. So check it out, everybody. Darrin, thanks once again, and everybody go check out John Laszlo and Darrin's shows on TNA Impact as we begin the march to Bound for Glory. That is free on the PWTorch Dailycast feed right now. Their last 2 episodes, normally it is VIP exclusive. Darrin, any closing words for everybody? Words of wisdom.
It was fun reviewing a pretty fun episode of Raw, and check out TNA Impact and our reviews as well.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody, and we will talk with you next time.